Hello dear students, and welcome back to the online learning session. This is your class of geography. Let us move ahead in chapter 1. Topics to be covered in this lesson are: number 1, Club of Rome; number 2, land resources; number 3, land utilization; number 4, land use pattern in India; and number 5, land degradation and conservation measures. So let us begin our discussion with the very topic of Club of Rome. So students, you should ask yourself, what is Club of Rome? It is an institution that was created to address multiple crises facing humanity and the planet. It is located in Winterthur, Canton, Zurich, Switzerland. It also has its international secretariat in Switzerland. Now we see that it has a collective know-how of different members, like it has different kinds of members as scientists, economists, business leaders, former politicians, and all these members collectively seek to define comprehensive solutions to the complex interconnected challenge. Club of Rome makes holistic proposals to address these immense interconnected problems in the fields of, now these are some important words students you should note, in the fields of global warming, well-being and humanitarian challenges. So this is the Club of Rome. Now it is able to do all these things through research, concrete policy proposals, and the convening of high-level meetings, debates, conferences, lectures and other events of our world. So we learned that Club of Rome is an institution working in the field of global warming, well-being and humanitarian challenges. And why are we actually studying about the Club of Rome, students, here? If you remember the last class, we had discussed a few points on the sustainable development and resource planning. So one such institution which promotes sustainable development is Club of Rome. So let us see the points why are we studying about the Club of Rome. Students, we see that it advocated for resource conservation for the first time at the international level in a systematic way in 1968, way back as 1968. Second point, we see subsequently, it means after the Club of Rome had started this trend, we come across other people and institutions as well taking forward this very idea of sustainable development, resource planning, resource conservation forward. For example, in 1974, we see Gandhian philosophy was once again presented by Schumacher in his book Small is Beautiful. So a question can be asked here, student, which book was written by Schumacher? Number 1, and number 2, what was that book related to? And I would also like you people to recall the Gandhian philosophy from the previous class. Now in the point 3, we see the Brundtland Commission report 1987 introduced the concept of sustainable development. Now from this very point in 1987, we see the concept of sustainable development being introduced, and it advocated it as a means for resource conservation. Now let us try to figure out its main objective. It advocated it as a means for resource conservation, which was subsequently published in a book entitled Our Common Future. Now once again a question can be directly raised from here, that the report related to the Brundtland Commission 1987 was published in a book called dash. So yes, exactly, that book is Our Common Future. And in that series, next we see that another significant contribution was made at the Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1992, where Agenda 21 was drawn, which we have already studied. So we see in this slide that Club of Rome sets the trend of raising and advocating for resource conservation. Therefore, we see other institutions and other people coming up with this very idea of taking forward the concept of resource conservation in the world. Now let us learn about land resources. Students, you know that land is a natural resource and this is of utmost importance. Land is a very important resource because it supports natural vegetation, wildlife, human life, and all the economic activities related to the human life, transportation and communication systems. Now, we also know that without natural vegetation and wildlife, human life will not survive. Human life could not exist. So, let us try and first of all see the broad divisions of the land resources found on the surface of the earth. We see plains, mountains and plateaus to be found on the surface of the earth broadly. Now plains occupy 43% of the land surface, 30% of the land's surface or earth surface is occupied by mountains, and 20% of the land or the earth's surface is occupied by the plateaus. So this is the broader division and the percentage share of these different types of land resources on the surface of the earth. Now we come to one of the most important topics of this chapter, which is land utilization. First of all, what do we mean by the topic itself? What is meant by utilization? Utilization means to use something, to put something to proper use, and the way something is used is known as utilization. So if we combine land with utilization, it becomes the way of using land, the way of putting any kind of land to use. So let us quickly go through the different types of land utilization. First we see we have forests. Second, we see that there is a land which is not available for cultivation. There is a land, but this land is not available for cultivation. So the first type of this land would be barren land and wasteland. What do you understand by barren land? A type of land on which you can't cultivate anything. Now second type we see under this category is land put to non-agricultural uses. Example, buildings, roads and factories. So we see in the second point that when land is put to non-agricultural uses, for example, when people build buildings, when construct roads, factories, etc. So these are the lands which come under land not available for cultivation. Now third, when we come here, we see other uncultivated land, excluding fallow land. Now let us see, we have three types here under this third category. So first one is permanent pastures and grazing lands. Clear? Now we see that this is a type of land. Pastures are types of land on which animals or cattle completely graze. Now second is we see land under miscellaneous tree crops, groves, not included in net sown area. So this land is under miscellaneous tree crops and groves. Now these crops may not be agricultural in nature, and we see cultivable waste land which is left. So cultivable waste land which is also left comes under other uncultivated land, but this excludes. Now what are fallow lands? Students, you might be well aware of the shifting cultivation or primitive subsistence farming or slash and burn agriculture. We see that when farmers cultivate certain patch of land, after cultivation they leave that land, they burn that land and they shift. So that land which is left behind for a certain period of time, that period could be 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, etc. So that land which is left behind is known as fallow land. So we have two types of fallow lands here. Very easily we are going to understand this. So one is current fallow and the second one is other than current fallow. Simple. One is current fallow and second one is other than current fallow. So if you understand the concept of current fallow, you can easily understand the second concept as well. So let us understand the concept of current fallow. Current fallow is that type of land which is left without cultivation for one or less than one agricultural year. So this is the important point, students. Now here you may be well aware of the fact that there are two cropping seasons in a year comprising 6 months each. One is Kharif and the second one is Rabi. Clear? Now if this land is being left for one or less than one agricultural year, it means ki either it would be left for one complete season comprising 6 plus 6 12 months, or for one season, either Kharif or Rabi. Now let us try to understand the second concept. Now the fallow lands other than current fallow, these are uncultivated for the past 1 to 5 agricultural years. Now only one point of difference between the two is the time period for which they are left uncultivated. So here in current fallow we see that the time period is for one or less than one agricultural year, whereas when we see other than current fallow, it will be 1 to 5 agricultural years of time period. I hope the concept is clear. Now let us move to the net sown area. Area sown more than once in an agricultural year. Let us see, area sown more than once in an agricultural year plus net sown area is known as gross cropped area. So we also see that this is gross cropped area. Now if we have a land like this and only a patch of land is being cropped, the land on which the crops are being sown, so this one is known as the net sown area. Now you can also see this as the total area which is sown with crops. Here if we are learning the concept of cross cropped area, we first need to understand the concept of net sown area, students. So as we have discussed right now, if this is the total area and only this much area is being cropped, only this much area is being sown with crops or any other thing like orchards, etc., plus when it represents an area in which total crops are grown only once in a year. Important point is that it is an area in which total crops are grown only once in a year, and this area is known as net sown area. And when you add area sown more than once in an agricultural year, then it becomes gross cropped area. I hope now the concept becomes clear. Students, let us now learn about the land use pattern of India. Here as you can see, we are concerned about the land use pattern of India. So in the upcoming slides related to this concept, we will also be dealing with a bit of data, which is quite usual in geography. Now let us begin this concept by asking a few questions in order to understand the concept clearly. How is land use pattern determined? How is land use pattern determined? Students, we see that land use pattern is determined by two factors. They are physical factors and they are human factors. Now what types of physical factors are there? There are topography, the difference in the height of different types of landforms. For example, if we consider 3 types of landforms, so this is a mountain, this is a plateau, and this is a plain. You can easily see the difference among the height of these landforms. So this is what we call as topography. Then we have climate, then we have soil types in physical factors. When we come to understand the human factors, we see factors such as population density, technological capability, and culture and traditions, etc. So all these factors, come into an interplay and determine the land use pattern. Now let us see the second question. Is the data of land use pattern complete? No, it is not. Land use data is available only for 93% of the total geographical area, because the land use reporting for most of the northeast states except Assam has not been done fully. Let us read this again. Land use reporting for most of the northeast states except Assam has not been done fully. I hope now you can relate to the concept. Moreover, some areas of Jammu and Kashmir occupied by Pakistan and China have also not been surveyed. So 2 points are here related to different parts of India, different states of India, where the surveying of the land use pattern has not been done completely. So that's why the data which is available in the context of our country is only available for the 93% of the total geographical area. Now students, you can see two pie charts here. Both the pie charts are related to the land use pattern of India or the general land use categories. What is the important thing here in decoding and learning this pie chart? Students, I want you to see the time period. First of all, we see general land use categories for the year 1960-61, and then there's another time period which is recent, that is of 2014 and 15. So this is the data which I was talking about that you will have to deal while analyzing the land use pattern by comparing two different time periods. Okay, now let us try and just try to interpret these two pie charts. Let us take first of all this blue block, this blue pie. It also appears like a pizza. So first of all, we see that the forest was 18.11% in 1960 to 61. Then we see barren and unculturable wasteland, which is represented by red color, 18.11% again. Then we have area under non-agricultural uses. It was 4.95% during 1960-61. Permanent pasture and grazing land, represented by this purple color, 4.71%. Then we have area under miscellaneous tree crops and groves, that is 1.5%. Then we have culturable wasteland, roughly about 6.23%. Then we have fallow other than current fallow, 3.5%. Then this slight pink color represents current fallow, 3.73%, and the net sown area is around 46.26%. Okay, so students, we have now interpreted one pie chart. We have studied one pie chart right now. Now we will move on to this pie chart from a time period of 1960 to 61 to 2014 and 15. Now first of all, let us see what is the land use pattern in 2014-15, and then we'll compare both these time period and we'll see the increase or decrease in the land use pattern of particular categories. So we see that there is 23.3% of forest in 2014 and 15. Students, if you remember that we have studied in class 9th Forest Society and Colonialism that around approximately 10% of the forests were cleared between a period of 200 years from 18th century to 20th century. So of course there were efforts in order to increase the area under greenery, under green cover. That is why we see that in 1960-61 we had 18.11% of forest But in 2014 and 15 we see we have 23.3% of forests. So yes, here you can see a increase in the forest area of India. Now the second area is barren and unculturable wasteland. It was 18.11% in 1960-61, but when we see the percentage share of barren and unculturable wasteland, it has gone down to 5.5%. Clear? A decrease, but that's good, because we must not have a lot of barren and unculturable wasteland. Third, when we see area under non-agricultural uses, it was 4.95% in 1960-61, but it has gone up in 2014, and we see it has gone up to 8.7%, roughly 2 times. Now let us move ahead and we see permanent pasture and grazing land. It has gone down from 4.71% to 3.3%. Now we come down to area under miscellaneous tree crops and groves. It was 1.5% in 1960-61. Now it's only 1%. Now we see the culturable wasteland was 6.23% in 1960-61. Now it is only 4% in 2014 and 15. Now we come to fallow other than current fallow. We see a very marginal increase from 3.5 to 3.6%. Now we see current fallow. Current fallow has increased from 3.73% to 4.9%, and then when we see net sown area, it has reduced a bit from 46.26% to 45.5%. So this is how, students, we are going to learn the land use pattern of India. The latest data is that of 2014 and 15 as per your textbook, and we need to compare it with a previous time period. That's why we have compared with a time period of 1960-61, and we can easily find out, we can easily figure out the changes in the land use pattern of India. So this is how you should study data related concepts. Now let us move forward. Students, we will now learn about one of the most burning topics and issues of the current world, that is land degradation and conservation measures. We learn why land is degraded, then we will try to figure out how land is degraded and how can we conserve land. Students, we see that human beings are dependent on land resources. Each and every economic activity of theirs have not only brought about degradation of land, but have also aggravated the pace of natural forces to cause damage to land. Now let us break this point and try to understand. We see that human beings are dependent on land resources. Yes, we have seen right now that we are dependent on plains when we were learning the introduction to land resources, and we are dependent for agricultural activities, jobs, coming to school, going back to our home. So all the different kind of economic activities are related to land resources, and land resources play a pivotal role in all these economic activities. But what has happened, what has been the consequence of this? Since human beings have been using and exploiting the land resources, it has not only brought degradation. The first point is that land has been degraded, but it has also aggravated the pace of natural forces to cause damage. Now what is this point relating to? Somewhere down the line, human beings have altered the nature. And how have they altered the nature, students? Simple, it's very simple to understand. This was a forest, and human beings carried out deforestation. Clear? Now once they carried out deforestation on a large scale, the soil which was tightly held now has loosened. and soil erosion starts taking place. Gradually the land gets degraded. So this is how the land has not only been degraded by humans, but they have also aggravated the pace of natural forces to cause damage to land further. When we come to second point, we see human activities such as deforestation, overgrazing, mining and quarrying to have contributed significantly in land degradation. Now let us learn topic wise. We have seen mining sites are abandoned after excavation. It means that people completely leave that place after excavation work is complete, leaving deep scars and traces of overburdening. In states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Odisha, deforestation due to mining have caused severe land degradation. Students, you know that all these regions are rich in mineral and power resources. For example, plenty of iron ore is found in the Jharkhand belt, in the Chhattisgarh belt, in Madhya Pradesh belt. Then we can find coal in Jharkhand. So a lot of people, a lot of human beings have carried out mining activities, but what happens after that? They completely abandon that site after excavation is done, which leaves deep scars. Therefore the land becomes completely rough, completely filled with cuts, and therefore land is left degraded. Now let us move to certain regions. In Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, overgrazing is one of the main reasons for land degradation. Now students, here you also have a direct question that in how many states, or name a few states in which overgrazing is one of the main problems for land degradations, or one of the main reasons for land degradation. Now another important topic when we come to some regions like Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, over irrigation is responsible for land degradation due to waterlogging, leading to increase in salinity and alkalinity in the soil. Students, you know that all these regions, especially Punjab and Haryana, and even in these two, especially Punjab, has a lot of land under commercial farming. So what happens? We have to take care of the land and the crops as well a lot when the land is under commercial farming. So they over irrigate the land, and due to this over irrigation, problem of waterlogging arises, which leads to increase in salinity and alkalinity in the soil, which is not good for the fertility of soil. That's why the land is left degraded in these regions. Now again, one of the most important topics, and a question can be directly raised from here, that which regions are affected by the issue of over irrigation, or what is the main cause of land degradation in regions like Punjab, Haryana, West and Uttar Pradesh. Let us move to point 6. We see a next point of mineral processing, like grinding of limestone for cement industry, calcite and sandstone for ceramic industry, generate huge quantity of dust. Now we see, students, that mineral processing industries like grinding of limestones, etc., they generate huge quantity of dust in the atmosphere. Now what happens? It retards the process of infiltration of water into the soil after it settles down on the land. Now you see that this is the dust, this is dust, and all the dust, you know, goes into the air. After some time, all dust comes and settles down on the surface. Now what does it further cause? It causes infiltration of water into the soil after it settles down on the land. And we have seen in the recent years industrial effluents, effluents here mean wastes, as waste have become a major source of land and water pollution in many parts of the country. Students, the final topic for the day is conservation measures related to the land degradation. Now we will be learning this topic very easily. You see, the list comprises 7 different measures. Now students, do not memorize all these 7 points. Whenever or wherever you have to study about conservation measures related to the degradation of any resource on this earth, you directly go to the measures through which human beings or any other factors disturb or degrade the land or that particular resource. Here we are concerned about the land resource. And of course, one way of learning this is memorizing all these 7 points, but we can make our task easier. Let us suppose that we do not memorize all these points: afforestation, proper management of grazing, shelter belts of plants, stabilization of sand dunes, proper management of wastelands, controlled mining activities, proper discharge and disposal of industrial effluents. Then what's the method, sir? The method is going to the land degradation or the degradation of that particular resource itself. When you have problem, if you directly go to the problem, you can find solutions there itself. So let us go to the problems. So when we come here, we see problems like deforestation. What's the solution? What's the conservation measure? Of course, afforestation. Overgrazing is another problem, so we should control overgrazing. Mining and quarrying activities are again a cause of land degradation, then we must control mining and quarrying activities. Other problems such as over irrigation is also seen, overgrazing is also seen, mineral processing and dust is also seen. So we easily see that when we go to all these problems, we have the solutions there itself. And therefore we come to all these 7 different conservation measures related to land degradation, that is afforestation, planting more trees. Second is proper management of grazing, the point is related to grazing. Third is the point of shelter belts related to plants and soil as well. Next is a stabilization of sand dunes in the desert areas. Fifth one is proper management of wastelands. See students, all the points are different. Sixth is controlled mining activities. Mining activities and quarrying activities must be controlled. Proper discharge and disposal of industrial effluents. It means the wastes which are generated from the industries must be properly discharged and must be properly disposed. For examples, people have this habit of discharging the effluents directly into river waters, or they dispose of the wastes directly in the river water, which in turn pollutes the water resources on a huge scale, which has become an issue in today's world. Therefore, proper discharge and disposal of these kinds of effluents are very necessary. So here we come to the end of today's lesson. If you have any doubts regarding this lesson, please keep me posted. Thank you.